What if a monumental Christian film transcended the boundaries of cinema? The Passion of the Christ redefined what a religious film could achieve, but its production concealed a series of unsettling mysteries. Eerie presences, inexplicable events, and haunting coincidences marked its creation, leaving an indelible impact on those involved. Tonight, we unravel the hidden truths of that set's secrets intended to remain buried. As a journalist, I approach this story with a mix of fascination and unease. It challenges our understanding of art, faith, and the unseen forces that may shape both, raising profound questions about the cost of pursuing a vision that defies convention. The Passion of the Christ broke barriers no Christian film had ever approached. Its production, however, was far from routine. Reports of an otherworldly presence, strange coincidences, and disturbing incidents continue to trouble those who worked on the project. Why did Mel Gibson, a Hollywood icon, stake everything on a film the industry deemed unmarketable? His relentless drive pushed beyond reason, risking financial ruin and personal stability for a vision that seemed almost divinely ordained. As a journalist, I view Gibson's commitment as both a testament to artistic conviction and a perilous leap into uncharted territory. It prompts reflection on whether such obsession amplifies authenticity or invites unforeseen consequences. Before a single scene was captured, before the film became a global phenomenon, one man stood at the core: Mel Gibson. He was not the celebrated superstar or acclaimed director known to millions, but a man consumed by a mission that baffled his peers. This was not a project born of careful planning. It was a compulsion, a calling that gripped him with unyielding force. Gibson could not have foreseen the transformative ordeal that awaited an experience that would reshape his life, career, and worldview in ways he never anticipated. As a journalist, I find this pivot from fame to fixation compelling. It underscores how personal crises can fuel groundbreaking art, but also raises questions about the psychological toll of such singular focus. In the late 1990s, Gibson stood at the pinnacle of Hollywood. His films commanded international audiences, his box office receipts were staggering, and he enjoyed the rare privilege of dictating his own terms in an industry known for its rigidity. Yet beneath this success, a personal storm brewed. Gibson battled addiction, wrestling with substances that clouded his judgment. Depression gnawed at him, leaving a void no accolade could fill. At his lowest, he confronted troubling thoughts that threatened his stability. In this darkness, a turning point emerged. He reconnected with his Catholic faith, not in a gentle or symbolic manner, but with an almost obsessive intensity that startled those around him. One day, overwhelmed, he knelt in prayer, pleading for divine intervention. Immersed in the gospel, particularly passages about seeking divine aid, he found a spark of inspiration. The idea for the Passion of the Christ took root. As a journalist, I see this moment as a critical juncture. It highlights the power of faith to redirect a life, but also invites scrutiny of whether such fervor can blur the line between inspiration and fanaticism. The public deserves to know how personal struggles shape the art that influences millions. Gibson later reflected, "I was a terrible person. My sins helped crucify him. I had to tell his story." This confession drove his fixation on depicting Jesus Christ's final hours, not as a sanitized Hollywood epic, but in raw, unfiltered truth. He immersed himself in research, poring over scripture, studying the Stations of the Cross, consulting historical texts, and exploring mystic writings, such as the visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. Accuracy was non-negotiable. Opinions held no sway. He insisted Jesus would speak Aramaic, Romans would speak Latin and no English, or modern elements would soften the narrative's impact. When he pitched this vision to Hollywood studios, a subtitled film about Jesus' brutal death in ancient languages, they dismissed it as commercially inviable. Executives saw no audience for a project lacking a mainstream hook. Undeterred, Gibson made a staggering decision. He funded the entire endeavor himself, investing $30 million in production and $15 million in marketing. No investors, no studio support, no safety net. Failure would mean financial collapse, potentially erasing his legacy. Yet this was no mere business venture. It was a spiritual imperative. As a journalist, I view this as a bold defiance of industry norms, but also a reckless gamble. It raises ethical questions about whether such high stakes enhance artistic integrity or court disaster. The public must consider the motivations behind such risks, especially when they reshape cultural narratives. Gibson rejected Hollywood's star-driven models seeking anonymity to ensure audiences focused on Christ, not celebrities. He chose Jim Caviezel, a devout Catholic, known for supporting roles in films like The Thin Red Line for his intensity and humility. Caviezel accepted the role without hesitation, fully aware of its demands. Gibson cautioned him, "You will never work in this town again." Caviezel responded, "We all must embrace our crosses. Jesus remains controversial." Little has changed in 2,000 years. This exchange set the tone for a production that would test everyone involved. The film was shot entirely in Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew, with no on-set translations, relying on subtitles for release. This immersed viewers in raw emotion, betrayal, agony, sacrifice. The sharp, commanding tone of Roman Latin and the somber, plaintive Aramaic crafted an ancient world that felt both distant and urgently immediate. As a journalist, I admire the linguistic purity, but question its practicality. Did it deepen the film's authenticity, or did it risk alienating audiences unfamiliar with such an approach? The balance between artistic vision and accessibility remains a critical debate. Gibson eschewed digital sets, opting for Matera, Italy, a location chosen for its biblical authenticity. The region's harsh conditions, freezing temperatures, fierce winds, and sudden storms challenged the cast and crew. They constructed a full-scale Golgotha, complete with real wooden crosses, dirt paths, and authentic tools, avoiding any artificial elements. The commitment to realism was palpable, but it came at a cost. As a journalist, I see this as a pursuit of truth, but wonder if it intensified the production's difficulties, contributing to the eerie atmosphere reported by those on set. The decision to prioritize authenticity over comfort invites scrutiny of whether such choices amplify art or invite unnecessary hardship. As preparations intensified, a sense of unease settled over the project. Actors, crew members, and even extras began to sense something extraordinary. Caviezel later admitted that everyone felt an unusual force at work, something beyond the mechanics of filmmaking. Stories circulated of quiet moments of reverence, spontaneous tears during rehearsals, and an almost tangible spiritual presence. When cameras began rolling, the set transformed into something more than a workplace. It became a crucible where human effort met inexplicable phenomena. As a journalist, I approach these accounts with a critical eye. While collective experiences can foster a sense of shared purpose, attributing them to the supernatural risks exaggeration. Yet the consistency of these reports across diverse individuals demands attention. They suggest a production that transcended its medium, raising questions about the interplay of art, faith, and the unknown. The production took a disturbing turn early on. What began as a spiritual endeavor became a series of unsettling events that defied explanation. The first sign was lightning. Caviezel committed to a grueling performance involving extensive makeup and hours suspended on a cross, was struck by a bolt during a scene on the Golgotha set. The crew stood paralyzed, unable to process the event. The jolt threw Caviezel off balance, injuring his tongue and cheeks. This incident led to 2 heart surgeries, including an open heart procedure, and required extensive medication. He eventually recovered, but the ordeal left a lasting mark. Mere minutes later, lightning struck again, this time hitting assistant director John Michelini, who had been struck earlier in the production. Surviving 2 strikes on the same set during the same shoot at the same location seems statistically improbable. Scientists label such events rare. Those on set began to call them a sign of warning or something more ominous. As a journalist, I find these incidents deeply unsettling. While lightning strikes can occur naturally, their precise timing and repetition invite speculation. They warrant rigorous investigation, not blind acceptance, as they challenge our understanding of coincidence versus intent. The lightning was only the beginning. Crew members began speaking in hushed tones about an unseen presence, not visible, but palpably felt. Some reported physical symptoms, dizziness, nausea, or sudden waves of emotion during specific scenes, such as the whipping, the carrying of the cross, or the crucifixion. These reactions were not constant, but tied to moments of intense narrative weight. Even Gibson, renowned for his composure under pressure, was seen leaving the set during these sequences, reportedly to pray or weep. The weather in Matera, typically stable, became erratic. Sunny mornings gave way to darkened skies by midday, only to clear abruptly within minutes. Fierce gusts swept through toppling equipment. Sandstorms materialized without warning, tearing tents from their moorings. Silence followed these bursts of chaos, leaving an eerie calm that felt more like a warning than a respite. As a journalist, I question whether these were mere environmental anomalies or something more. The crew's collective experience suggests a shared perception, but attributing it to supernatural forces risks sensationalism. The truth likely lies in a complex interplay of stress, environment, and belief. Yet the intensity of these accounts cannot be dismissed. Caviezel's suffering was particularly profound, bordering on the biblical. During the scourging scene, whips designed to miss his skin misfired with a barb tearing into his back, leaving a 14-inch scar. While carrying the heavy cross, he slipped, dislocating his shoulder. Some screams captured in the final cut were not acted, but real, born of genuine pain. Makeup artists later revealed that some bruises on Caviezel's body were not artificial. They were real, blending seamlessly with the applied effects, making it difficult to distinguish between the two. He battled hypothermia during the crucifixion scenes filmed in cold, stormy conditions that pushed his body to its limits, mirroring the torment of the character he portrayed. Eerily, Caviezel's initials, JC, matched those of Jesus Christ, and he was 30 years old during filming, the same age as Christ at his crucifixion. As a journalist, these parallels are striking but ambiguous. They could be mere coincidence, yet their symbolic resonance is undeniable. They invite reflection on whether art can channel something greater than its creator's intent, or whether such parallels are projections of our desire for meaning. The toll extended beyond Caviezel. Other cast members reported sudden fevers, sleepless nights, and vivid nightmares, particularly after filming pivotal scenes. Extras, technicians, and even caterers shared stories of inexplicable emotions, dreams, or moments of reverence that left them shaken. Gibson grew increasingly withdrawn, starting each day with prayer, pacing the set while murmuring scripture. The production began to feel like a spiritual battleground, not merely a film set. Gibson himself viewed The Passion as more than cinema. He called it a spiritual weapon, a tool to confront forces beyond the material world. What transpired was intense, defying rational explanation. And as a journalist, I see this as a collision of human ambition and inexplicable phenomena. The crew's experiences challenge conventional narratives, urging caution against both outright dismissal and uncritical acceptance. The truth may lie in the psychological and spiritual weight of the story itself, amplified by the grueling conditions of its creation. On February 25, 2004, The Passion of the Christ stormed into theaters not as a typical release, but as a cultural detonation. Hollywood had scoffed at Gibson's vision, critics sharpened their pens before the premiere, and religious leaders prepared to either defend or condemn the film in the strongest terms. Nothing could have prepared the world for its seismic impact. The premiere eschewed traditional Hollywood fanfare, no red carpets, no late-night talk show appearances. Gibson took a radical approach, marketing directly through churches. Early cuts were sent to evangelical leaders, Catholic priests, and Christian influencers. Screenings were held not in glitzy theaters, but in church basements and community halls across the United States. Pastors took to their pulpits, proclaiming it the most powerful depiction of Jesus ever committed to film. The faith community responded with unprecedented fervor, booking entire theaters and organizing buses to transport congregations. For many Christians, watching The Passion was not a cinematic outing. It was a spiritual pilgrimage, a moment of communion with their faith. As a journalist, I find this strategy ingenious but exclusionary. It tapped into a passionate audience, but risked alienating those outside the Christian fold. It raises questions about whether art should prioritize universal appeal or cater to a specific demographic. The film's financial success stunned analysts. On its opening day, Ash Wednesday, it grossed $23.5 million. By the end of its opening weekend, it had amassed $83.8 million, securing the largest February debut in history at that time. Despite its R-rating reliance on subtitles, graphic violence, and absence of marquee stars, The Passion drew massive crowds. By the end of its theatrical run, it had earned $370 million in the United States alone and $611 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing R-rated film of its era. A $30 million independent project funded solely by Gibson had defied every industry expectation, leaving Hollywood speechless. As a journalist, this triumph underscores the power of underserved audiences. It also exposes the industry's blind spots, particularly its underestimation of faith-based markets. Yet it prompts reflection on whether such success validates artistic risk or merely reflects a moment of cultural alignment. The film's success was matched by a tidal wave of controversy. Jewish organizations, including the Anti-Defamation League, accused it of promoting anti-Semitic themes, specifically the historical trope that Jews were solely responsible for Jesus' death. Abraham Foxman, a prominent voice in the league, stated, "The passion of the Christ could fuel latent anti-Semitism in those who hold Jews responsible for Jesus' death, the source of Western anti-Semitism." Gibson maintained that the film adhered strictly to scriptural accounts portraying events as they occurred. Scholars, activists, and religious leaders disagreed, arguing that the film's depiction of Jewish authorities risked perpetuating harmful stereotypes. Heated debates erupted on talk shows and tabloid columns and within religious communities. Yet audiences continued to flock to theaters undeterred by the controversy. As a journalist, I find this debate profoundly significant. While Gibson's intent may have been to reflect Scripture, the film's imagery carries heavy historical baggage. It demands ethical scrutiny, as art can inadvertently reinforce prejudices, even if unintentionally. The public deserves a transparent discussion about the responsibilities of filmmakers tackling sensitive narratives. Another major point of contention was the film's graphic violence. Critics decried the nearly 10-minute scourging scene as excessively brutal, accusing Gibson of fixating on suffering. Audience members reported feigning vomiting or leaving theaters in tears, overwhelmed by the intensity. A renowned critic, Roger Ebert, wrote, "The movie is 126 minutes long, and at least 100 minutes focus graphically on Jesus' torture and death. This is the most violent film I have ever seen," fellow critic David Anson added. "Instead of being moved by Christ's suffering, I felt abused by a filmmaker punishing audiences for unknown reasons." Gibson chose silence, allowing the film to speak for itself. As a journalist, I see the violence as a deliberate choice to convey the raw reality of crucifixion, but question its execution. Did it illuminate Christ's sacrifice, or did it risk alienating viewers, turning reverence into revulsion? The line between truth and excess is a critical consideration for artists and audiences alike. The film's global reception was a study in contrasts. In Mexico, it was embraced with fervent devotion, with screenings drawing packed houses. In Italy and Poland, Catholic audiences filled theaters night after night, viewing it as a sacred work. In Brazil, the film played in both slums and grand cathedrals, bridging social divides. Conversely, in France and Germany, where historical sensitivities around anti-Semitism run deep, the film faced significant resistance. Several theaters refused to screen it, citing concerns about its potential to inflame tensions. In Christian communities worldwide, the film was hailed as a divine masterpiece. Viewers reported profound spiritual transformations, with some claiming physical healings or emotional breakthroughs after watching. Churches leveraged the film to spark discussions about Christ's sacrifice, while evangelists distributed recordings as tools for conversion. For many believers, the Passion became a modern evangelistic instrument, rivaling the Bible in its reach. As a journalist, I find this global dichotomy revealing. The film's ability to unite Christians across cultures is remarkable, but its rejection in certain regions underscores the challenges of navigating historical wounds. It highlights art's dual capacity to inspire and divide, demanding careful consideration of context. Beyond the church, critics, scholars, and filmmakers accuse Gibson of inflaming religious tensions, glorifying violence, and advancing a fundamentalist worldview. The backlash soon turned personal. Reporters delved into Gibson's family history, spotlighting his father's controversial statements about the Holocaust. Gibson's own interviews, often cryptic and defensive, fueled further scrutiny. The Passion of the Christ ceased to be just a film. It became a cultural fault line dividing audiences, critics, and even nations. Its impact on the film industry was undeniable. It proved the existence of a vast, untapped Christian audience, prompting studios to greenlight faith-based projects like God's Not Dead, Heaven is for Real, and War Room. Yet none replicated the Passion's cultural or financial dominance. As a journalist, I see this as a pivotal moment in cinematic history. It exposed Hollywood's disconnect from a significant demographic, but also highlighted the risks of polarizing narratives. The film's legacy challenges the media to balance artistic freedom with social responsibility. For those who lived through the production, the story did not end when the credits rolled. The aftermath was as dramatic and mysterious as the filming itself. Jim Caviezel, a rising talent with roles opposite Jennifer Lopez in Angel Eyes, in Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line, and alongside Dennis Quaid in Frequency, was poised for stardom. Hollywood saw him as a reliable, clean-cut lead. Yet after taking on the role of Jesus, his career trajectory shifted dramatically. Following the film's massive success, Caviezel expected a flood of offers. Instead, his phone went silent. Industry insiders reportedly labeled him too religious, while others deemed him difficult. Whispers of a quiet blacklisting circulated, suggesting that his public alignment with Gibson and the film's controversial themes had rendered him untouchable in certain circles. Caviezel later reflected, "I stopped being a top actor in the studio. I had done nothing wrong. I just played Jesus." Despite this, he expressed no regrets, insisting he would make the same choice again. He leaned into his faith, taking on Christian-themed roles and speaking at religious conferences, often emotionally recounting the film as a transformative calling. He once said, "I had to defend my faith. I was called anti-Semitic and everything." As a journalist, I empathize with Caviezel's plight. His career suffered for his conviction, raising troubling questions about Hollywood's tolerance for overt spirituality. It underscores the personal sacrifices artists may face when aligning with polarizing projects. Gibson's story is equally complex. The release of The Passion should have been his crowning achievement. He had defied Hollywood's skepticism, crafting a global blockbuster in ancient languages with no stars. Yet his personal life unraveled in its wake. In 2006, a drunk driving arrest in Malibu became a defining scandal. During the incident, Gibson uttered anti-Semitic remarks captured on record that shattered his public image and made him a pariah in the industry. Further controversies followed: tabloid meltdowns, leaked phone calls, and accusations of troubling behavior. Many viewed this as a complete fall from grace, a tragic descent for a once beloved figure. However, those close to him, particularly those who worked on The Passion, offer a different perspective. They argue the film fundamentally changed him, that his obsessive pursuit of Christ's story left him spiritually and emotionally altered. Gibson himself admitted he was never the same after the project, hinting in cryptic interviews that the backlash he faced was not entirely natural, perhaps a consequence of the film's audacity. He remained steadfast in his belief that The Passion was a divine assignment, describing it as the work of his life. In recent years, he has quietly developed a sequel, though details remain scarce. Notably, he rarely speaks of the film today, and those close to him say certain aspects of the experience remain off limits. As a journalist, I find Gibson's trajectory both tragic and illuminating. The film's intensity may have exacerbated his personal struggles, but his own actions fueled the public's condemnation. It raises profound questions about the toll of ambitious art and the interplay of genius and vulnerability. The crew's experiences were no less transformative. Reports from the set describe a profound shift among those behind the scenes. Some crew members began studying the Bible during breaks drawn to Scripture in ways they had not anticipated. Extras technicians, caterers, and others whose names never appeared in the credits shared stories of vivid dreams, inexplicable emotions, or moments of reverence that left them changed. Several confessed their sins seeking baptisms during the production, an unusual occurrence for a film set. One of the most striking transformations was that of Luca Lionello, an actor who played Judas. A self-proclaimed atheist before the project, Lionello converted to Christianity after his experience on set, citing the role's spiritual weight as a catalyst. These accounts paint a picture of a production that transcended its medium, touching those involved in ways that defy conventional explanation. As a journalist, I find these transformations both compelling and challenging to interpret. They suggest a collective experience rooted in the story's power, but risk being romanticized without corroboration. They invite reflection on how art can serve as a conduit for personal and spiritual awakening. Perhaps most intriguing is the silence that persists among many involved. Decades later, numerous actors, including those with minor roles as Roman soldiers or townspeople, consistently decline interview requests. Crew members from grips to costume designers express discomfort revisiting the experience, offering vague reasons or none at all. Journalists covering the production have encountered what some describe as a wall of silence, not a cover-up of scandal or crime, but an unspoken reluctance to discuss what transpired. Those who do speak describe the filming as spiritually intense, overwhelming, or unlike any project they have undertaken. Some speculate that the story's emotional and theological weight created a sacred space, one that participants are hesitant to disturb. Others suggest that the crew witnessed events that defy explanation, leaving them unsure how to articulate their experiences. A few whisper that the production crossed into the supernatural, a claim that resonates with the set's reported anomalies, but lacks concrete evidence. As a journalist, I find this silence both frustrating and revealing. It suggests a shared experience too profound for casual discussion, yet risks fostering myths without transparency. The public deserves clarity, but the reticence of those involved may reflect a respect for the project's gravity, a refusal to reduce it to mere anecdote. The Passion of the Christ was more than a film for those who made it. It became a spiritual milestone, a before and after moment in their lives. Caviezel paid with his career, sidelined by an industry wary of his faith. Gibson paid with his reputation, undone by personal missteps amplified by the film's controversies. Countless others, actors, crew, even peripheral figures, walked away, changed, humbled, or haunted. Yet remarkably, none expressed regret. They described feeling something sacred, something personal that cannot be captured in interviews or documentaries. The silence persists not out of shame but reverence, as if the passion became their own cross to bear. As a journalist, I see this as a testament to the film's enduring power, but also a challenge to our understanding of truth. The interplay of art, faith, and mystery demands rigorous inquiry, yet respects the boundaries of personal experience. What was the Passion of the Christ? Was it merely a film, a product of human creativity and ambition? Or was it something more, a spiritual event, a battleground of forces beyond our comprehension? The answers remain elusive, shaped by the perspectives of those who lived it and the audiences who embraced or rejected it. As a journalist, I believe this story compels us to grapple with the limits of art and the mysteries of faith. It challenges us to question what we accept as truth, to weigh the cost of bold visions, and to consider the unseen forces that may shape our world. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe for more updates.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, drop a comment below. And please like, share, and subscribe my channel.